Universalist Church of the Desert. My name is Walter Gendell, and I am thrilled and honored to be a worship associate this beautiful Sunday morning. I'm so glad to see all of you, whether you are here in the sanctuary or listening online. I am also delighted to be up here on the podium this morning with our minister, Reverend Ian. Reverend Ian, it is so glad and so good to see you up here on the podium and back from your sabbatical. I know everyone here today is as thrilled as I am. Welcome home. But before we begin, though, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and any other devices you may have before they start ringing. Thank you. As we begin our service, let us first acknowledge that we gather today on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla people, who have stewarded this land, this earth, throughout the generations. Let us also begin this service with an acknowledgement of the lands, waters, creatures, plants, and peoples whose being is bound up with our own in mutual dependence. It is said the earth is a spiritual being, and as such should be accorded a degree of respect. It is expected that we, as beings blessed enough to receive the abundance of the earth, will care for our mother, the earth, in a good way. So let us strongly commit to grow in our understanding and relationship with this land and with the people who inhabited it and nurtured it before our arrival. But nurturing our land is only a part of who we are. We also nurture each other and make every effort to welcome everyone wholeheartedly who enters our church. And what that means is that all of you are welcome. Our community has a place for you. Here you matter, and here you are loved. And how do we make everyone welcome? By celebrating our differences and embracing what we have in common. So regardless of your citizenship status, your age, or gender identity, race, religion, civic engagement, or who you even choose to love, you are welcome. We even welcome those who speak English with a pronounced, sometimes grating New York accent who can't say coffee correctly. So welcome, and come and learn and grow with us as we commit together to embrace the rich and beautiful diversity of the world. I invite all of you to help build a community centered in justice, in compassion, and most importantly, in love. We are very grateful for your presence. And as part of our welcoming everyone into our community, we'd now like to take a moment to greet newcomers and visitors. If you are here for the first time or are a visitor and are comfortable doing so, please raise your hand and an usher, Marty, will come to you with a mic. At this time, please just tell us your name and where you are from. We look forward to getting to know you better at our coffee hour after service. So why don't we start on this side of the sanctuary? Any newcomers? Any takers? Nope. Middle, there you go. Mike is coming. Marty is coming and a mic is coming.
Hi, my name's Bob and I'm visiting from Seattle. Thank you.
Anybody else? How about this section here? No, and the last section.
Hello, my name is Mark and live here in Rancho Mirage.
Hi, I'm Sean. I live in Rancho Mirage as well.
Well, welcome, all of you. Again, please join us for coffee after our service. So one of the ways we covenant with each other to both welcome everyone into our community and celebrate the worthiness of all people is to participate in a candle lighting ceremony in support of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color or BIPOC. I'd now like to invite Dennis up to join me as we light our BIPOC candles and say the words on the screen. We light these candles in solidarity with Black, Indigenous, and other people of color as we journey together toward spiritual wholeness. May we, as a beloved community, work to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. May we live out our principles so that justice, dignity, and equity for all prevail. Thank you, Dennis. So now, let's take a deep breath as we calm our minds and our bodies while Reverend Ian rings the Tibetan bowl and we listen to the wonderful Chip Prince play our music for centering.
Merci. Good morning, everybody. It is such a delight to be home with you again. And welcome to our Sunday service. As many of you know, I am the minister of this congregation, the Reverend Ian Riddell. It is my joy to serve as your minister and my great joy to be back with you again after a summer away on sabbatical. However you found us, however many times you've been with us here in person or online, welcome. We are a congregation still that celebrates the richness and beauty of individual lives and commits to working together to weave a tapestry made stronger and more vibrant by our collaboration and by the sharing of our lives and our vision for a thriving future for all of life. This vision calls us today to return to one another's presence, carrying with us the cares and hopes of our daily lives, glad in each other's touch and smile and tender care. Each of us whole, each of us holy, and each of us needing each other as we carry the weight of our lives, of our world, needing to be grounded and nurtured together in this place that we have built and found and realized, returning to each other, returning to kindness in the face of fear, returning to connection in the face of alienation and dehumanization, and to justice, returning to justice in the face of hatred and cruelty, and returning to love. With that love in our hearts, connected and blessed by each other's presence, we gather to worship together today. My friends, will you rise, please, in body or in spirit as we sing our opening hymn, Return Again. We'll do it a few times through, the first section, then the second section, then the first section, then the second section, then the first section again. And that should do it. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you
One of our most sacred rituals is the lighting of our chalice. For us, it signifies the creation of a sacred space where we gather together in community. So as Reverend Ian lights our chalice, let's speak the words on the screens above. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. So my reading this morning is an excerpt from The Dispossessed, an Ambiguous Utopia by Ursula K. Le Guin. He would always be one for whom the return was as important as the voyage out. To go was not enough for him, only half enough. He must come back. And such a tendency was already foreshadowed, perhaps, the nature of the immense exploration he was to undertake into the extremes of the comprehensible. He would most likely not have embarked on this years-long enterprise had he not had profound assurance that return was possible, even though he himself might not return. That indeed, the very nature of the voyage, like a circumnavigation of the globe, implied return. You shall not go down twice to the same river, nor can you go home again. That he knew. Indeed, it was the basis of his view of the world. Yet from that acceptance of transience, he evolved his vast theory, wherein what is most changeable is shown to be fullest of eternity, and your relationship to the river and the river's relationship to you and to itself turns out to be at once more complex and more reassuring than a mere lack of identity. You can go home again, the general temporal theory asserts, so long as you understand that home is a place where you have never been. So as the ushers come around for the offertory, and we think about our sacred church and the bounty it provides for all of us, please give as generously as you can so we can continue to care for our many communities and the wonderful church for generations to come.
Thank you for your generous support of this congregation, this community, and its work in the world this day and every day. We all give in so many ways with our money, our time, our understanding, our caring for each other, and our skills that we bring to the work of this congregation in the world and in our hearts. Thank you. Thank you. This is the time in our service where we pause and lift up the joys and sorrows, the cares and worries, the lightness and happiness that is in our hearts that has happened to us this week, to us this month. And today no one has written anything in the book. But I know there is care on your heart. I know there is joy in your spirit. I know that each of us contains so much that we worry about, so much that we celebrate, so much we hope for. In this world when we are surrounded daily by the threat of violence, when our own government is the threat of that violence, these days when we are surrounded by warmongering and hate-mongering, surrounded by dehumanization and cruelty, we come together today to be reminded that there is also love. There are acts of kindness happening all around us every day. Acts of love, acts of trust, acts of building of community, acts of protest against violence, acts of protest and resistance to cruelty. So we carry those in our hearts as well. They do not cancel the hard things, but they make them bearable, and they bring us hope that the world, that our hearts, that our nation will change, will find love, find hope, find kindness and caring. And so I invite you now into a time of silence, time of reconnection, time of returning to the home of your heart, returning to yourself in the presence of this beloved community. And so we pause now in quiet. There is never silence, for life goes on around us in the hum of the electronics and the beating of our hearts. But we pause in quiet together, breathing deeply, and hold in our hearts that love which this community shows to us, the love that surrounds us and holds us in the face of all that we deal with in the world, that love which creates and nurtures and inspires our hope and offers us rest in the face of the world. We pause now in the presence and embrace of that love and this community. All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. May all beings know peace. May all beings know an end to suffering. May all beings know and nurture love. Friends, will you join your holy voices together as we sing Spirit of Life, Fuente de Amor? Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind. joy and solace it is to hear your voices, friends. And it is a great joy to be back among you this week at the end of my 2-month sabbatical. I am grateful to the congregation for honoring the commitment to allow me this time away from the daily work of the congregation for rest and reflection and renewal. And I'm especially grateful to all of you for helping the life and work of this community continue smoothly and kindly, from what I've heard, over the summer months. I never felt a moment of worry that you'd be fabulous and caring for each other. I'm glad to return to you rested and refreshed and ready for a new year of worship and community and justice and love. And I'd like to take a little time today to reflect on parts of my sabbatical experience and share some of the seeds and fruits of my time away. Now, for those of you who are newer or visiting today, I know this is going to seem a little inward and self-focused for me and the community. It's an unusual sermon in that way, but I do hope that all of us, and you can find some insight and meaning as we reflect on going away and returning, on the ways in which we can encounter and support each other in the work of our lives. A little over 2 months ago, Mark and I loaded the dogs and a lot of luggage into both of our cars and drove to San Diego, where we were going to spend the first 6 weeks of our sabbatical time. We had lived there for 4 years before moving here to the desert, and we were looking forward to reconnecting with the place and some people and with the Pacific Ocean. Returning to the ocean this summer made me think about the very first time I encountered the Pacific Ocean. I was a teenager living in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, and I belonged to my church's youth group. One year, we participated in an exchange program with another church in Victoria, British Columbia, on Canada's west coast. The kids from Victoria came to visit us first, and then we flew to the west coast to stay in their homes and explore. The experience I remember most from this trip is what happened the first time I really met the Pacific Ocean. As part of our visit, we drove out of Victoria north and west along the coast of Vancouver Island to a church-owned camp on the water. There were cabins and fire pits and a great big dock pointing out into the dark water, and so we went swimming. I was one of the last people in the water, and I guess I hadn't really been paying much attention to what my friends were actually doing in the water, how they were reacting to it. And so I dumped my shoes and my shirt, and I ran out on that dock at full tilt, and when I got to the end of it, I leapt, eyes open, mouth open. Now, you have to remember that I grew up in eastern Canada, on the shores of Lake Ontario and among smaller rocky lakes and streams, canoeing through the Thousand Islands, swimming from sandy lake beaches. So it was June, and there was water. So I dumped my shoes and my shirt, and I ran out on that dock at full tilt. When I got to the end of it, I leapt, eyes open, mouth open. I don't think I have or will ever again move as quickly as I did after I hit the water that day. It was so cold and so salty, so overwhelming. I was back on the dock before I knew what I was doing, and I didn't go back in the water that day. I had grown up with water being a constant, swimming in it, canoeing on it, skating on it. And I took for granted that all water was like the water I knew, warm in June, frozen in January, clear and fresh. My baptism in the Pacific, though, was the beginning of the understanding in me that the waters of this world can also be powerful, frightening, humbling reminders of the hugeness and strangeness of life. Eventually, I moved to Victoria with my husband, Mark, and we lived there for 7 years. And the Pacific became the norm to me of what water is and can be in our lives. Then we returned to live in Monterey and Carmel for my ministerial internship 15 years ago, and then again when I began my ministry at First UU in San Diego. And here we were again this June, bringing our spirits back to the sea and standing upon the shore. And when I see the Pacific now, As I did the way we arrived in June, I am humble before it. But I am a different person now than I was each of the other times I made my home on that ocean, changed by intention and experience. Ursula Le Guin wrote, as Walter read earlier, "You shall not go down to the same river." And I agree. But it's not just because the river changes, always flowing, but also because we change. We learn new stories about people's lives and see that what were old truths may be opinions. Our hearts are broken and hopefully rehealed, broken and rehealed, and the scars that form the healing make what was once familiar feel different. We travel to new places and amass new experiences, and so what we once thought large and central may seem less important, and what we took for granted or thought was inconsequential becomes a touchstone. The river is never stepped in by the same foot twice. Much of my sabbatical was a return as well to texts and practices that have held me for a long time. I spent a good amount of time returning in my reading and my pondering to my theological roots in religious naturalism, reading essays and reflections by many thinkers and books by Loyal Rue and Anthony Pinn. And I'm still cogitating and stewing on all of that. And I know that I will be sharing the fruits of these new understandings as the year goes along. But today I want to focus on three other things I focused on: the Tao Te Ching, Ursula Le Guin, surprise, and of course, knitting. I first encountered the Tao Te Ching in a beaten-up old Penguin Classics paperback that I picked up at my college's book fair in my first year at university. It has traveled with me since then and been joined by many more versions and translations over the years. On my sabbatical, I took with me two versions, Ursula Le Guin's and a newer translation by Ken Liu. Now, like Le Guin, Liu is an author of science fiction and fantasy, but unlike her, he is also a professional translator steeped in Chinese language and culture. So over the time of my sabbatical, I read them each on their own, sometimes just reading slowly, sometimes meditating on what arose for me with each verse. But during the last week of August, when I was at a silent retreat, yes, I didn't speak for 5 days, except to myself. Then I read them in tandem, verse by verse, and was moved by the ways the two versions shifted in and out of sync with each other. One of the deep things of the Tao Te Ching is the assertion that all things grow out of the oneness that is the Tao, the way, and that the path of the Tao is always a return to the root of who we are, what we are, where we come from. Return is how the way moves, is Le Guin's version of the opening of the 40th verse. And one of the earlier verses goes deeper. This is Ken Liu's translation, and this is the whole verse, so just invite you to listen with open ears. Empty your mind to the utmost, be as still as you can. I observe all things in the cosmos as they emerge, grow, decay over and over. All of them ultimately return to the root. That root is called peace. To be at peace is to be revitalized. To be revitalized is the natural condition. To know the natural condition is to truly understand. Without knowing the natural condition, one errs into calamity. Knowing the natural condition, one grows receptive. Being receptive leads to fairness. Fairness leads to all-encompassing justice, which is the way of heaven. The way of heaven is Tao, which is lasting, untroubled even unto death. All of them ultimately return to the root. I heard in this theme of returning to the root not a call for conservatism or resistance to change, but a reminder to ground ourselves in our deepest understandings of things to avoid calamity, to revitalize ourselves in the work of the world. And I also heard echoes of the understandings of our universalist forebears who moved through the world and grounded their actions and relationships in the conviction that in the end, no matter what else happened, in the end, every being, would return to the loving embrace of the divine, however it is named. That we would all ultimately return to the root of our being. And so I see connections in our tradition and this ancient Chinese tradition. You know well by now that the writings of Ursula Le Guin have become central to me and the way I see the world and our place in it. You might be tired of it, but that's the truth. The elegant beauty of her prose and the gentle fierceness of her vision of goodness, justice, and community walk with me, and I return to them regularly. In an article she wrote in Harper's Magazine a decade ago about reading and the fate of books, she said, "A book is not ephemeral. It lasts. It is reliable. If a book told you something when you were 15, it will tell it to you again when you're 50. Though you may understand it so differently that it seems you're reading a whole new book." Just as we change in our understandings of the places we return to, over time we change in the ways that we perceive stories and narratives crafted by others and the narratives of our own life. The river is never stepped in by the same foot twice. And so I spent some time on my sabbatical rereading some of Le Guin's work, a couple of novels and an essay collection that I hadn't picked up in a while, reconnecting myself with how her brain worked and seeing how my perspective might have changed over time, even though her words stayed mostly the same. And because I had and have been engaging more attentionally with the Tao Te Ching and Taoist thought in general, I was able to see how deeply Le Guin's own Taoist leanings are interwoven into her fiction and in themes of return and balance and inaction and care. She talks about finding her father's beaten-up copy of the Tao Te Ching on the shelf in the living room when she was a child. I had read her novel, The Lathe of Heaven, years ago. It's the story of a man named George Orr who can literally change the world with his dreams. And another man, his psychiatrist, Dr. Haber, who discovers this and begins to use Orr's power to actively change the world. The first time I read it, it felt like one of Le Guin's lesser works and just simply a story of good versus evil and a reflection like the monkey's paw on being careful what you wish for as the unintended consequences of George's controlled dreaming wreak havoc on the world. But now, this time, I see in it themes of balance and striving, Taoist themes of exploration of the impact of action and non-action, of grasping and acceptance. It shows a lived, specific experience with finding our way away from ego-centered meddling and turning toward nurturing balance and kindness in our relationships and our communities and in our actions when we take them. I highly recommend it. And of course, I spent some good time knitting. I took several projects with me, but very quickly decided I would be a monogamous knitter for my retreat, my time away, and settled on just working on one large project. It's a blanket that I bought, the yarn for which I bought especially for this trip, and a blanket that I hope will become a family heirloom. It's not quite done yet. I'm still working on strips. Perhaps that's symbolic of the way that I'm hoping to continue to do the reflecting and thinking that I did in my time away after I'm back. And yes, I will show you the whole thing when it's done. Now, normally, if you're knitting something flat, like a blanket, or a washcloth, or a scarf, whatever kind of needle you have, you just knit back and forth until the piece is as long or as wide as you want it to be. But this way of knitting gives you straight, even balanced row on round on round. Same number of stitches and rows everywhere. But what if you wanted to do something different? What if you wanted to make the back of your sweater a little higher in the back so that it matches the actual shape of your body? Or what if you want to start knitting on an angle like this? Well, then you use a technique called short rows. Short rows happen when you knit along a row. Remember which way I do it here. Anyway, you knit along a row, and before you reach the end of the row, you just turn around and knit back. And the next time, you just knit till just before you made the turn and knit back. You do this over and over and over again, never getting to the end of the row until finally you decide to knit all the way across again, to finally return to the other edge of your knitting, which you haven't seen in a while. And like magic, because you've done all of these different things, counting and turning and changing, when you return to where you are, everything is different, and you're knitting on a whole new angle. You're back to doing what you were doing before, but because you added a different way of knitting, a different technique, suddenly what you were doing before is different. There's a different view, a different balance. Something new has come from the same old knitting. Because we tried something new to get us out of the rut of the usual, something new emerged that wasn't there before. When we take the opportunity to learn new things, to explore new experiences, to meet new ideas and new people, we change ourselves in small and large ways. We broaden and deepen our understandings so that when we return finally to places and people and communities and homes and writing that we have experienced before, we come to them with new eyes, better able to see their impact on us, better able perhaps to see them in a new light, to find things in them that were invisible or inaccessible to us, to see their pattern with new perspective. And I have come back to this community, to our shared ministry, changed by my sabbatical. Still myself, still lovingly committed to this work we do together, but with some new perspectives, some new ideas, some new ways of seeing you and me and our collaboration, some new patience with myself and resilience in the work of the world. Now, this, of course, is one of the benefits of sabbatical, that your minister can return renewed in the shared work of ministry. But you know, you've had new experiences too, individually and as a community. Some of you have thrived in doing things without me, which brings me great joy, or doing things without me around our worship team, our AV team, our pastoral care folks, our staff, and so many more. And so you are not the same congregation you were when I left at the beginning of June. What a joy it has been this week to see the ways you flourished over the summer, caring for each other in the face of the death of loved ones, nurturing each other in the skills of leadership and worship and the work of the world. Over and over again, we return to our relationships, to our communities, to ourselves, and each and every time we find ourselves reassured by the roots of who we are, together and individually, and excited and revitalized by the new possibilities that our being apart for a while have brought to us. May we continue to learn and grow in our understanding and in our ability to craft this world in the shape of kindness and justice and love and peace. May it be so. Friends, we take this journey together, we move forward in the world together, and we're not quite sure where the journey is going to take us or how long it's going to be, but we know we're doing it together. We know we're doing it in the service of love and of justice and of truth and peace. So I invite you please to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together our closing song, Wo Ya Ya, We Are Going. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we'll get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how
All right, now for some congregational news. We've had about 4 announcements. The first announcement is about UUCOD's parking lot. The parking lot will be closed for repaving and restriping on September 18th and 19th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. There will be no access to the parking lot during this time, and we are discouraging members and friends from coming to the church during these repairs. If you must come to the church for any reason, vehicle parking must be on Via Vale, and you should refrain from walking on the parking lot. Please use the sand pathway from Via Vale up to the church patio and depart the same way. And thank you in advance for your cooperation with this project. Number 2, I know none of us think about aging, but Marty Greenwald will be holding his first Healthy Aging class of the new church year this Wednesday, September 17th at 10 o'clock. The topic is the spiritual foundation of healthy aging. There are many flyers on the table in the lobby. Number 3, would you like to participate more directly in our Sunday service? One way is to light the chalice or buy a pot candles during our service. This is a wonderful way for others to get to know you and for you to be a part of our Sunday service. It also eliminates the fear, which Dennis experienced this morning, on Sunday morning that the worship associate will tap you on the shoulder and ask you to light the candles. There is a sign-up sheet in the lobby, but please sign up at least 2 weeks in advance. And this announcement is specifically for all our guests and visitors. If you want to learn more about us or our programming, please contact the office at admin, ADMIN, at uucod.org, or visit our website, also uucod.org. You can also stop by the welcome table in the lobby if you are interested in getting on our mailing list. A member of our wonderful welcoming committee will be happy to help you. So now, in each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. So now let us extinguish our chalice, and as we do so, let's say these words on the screen above. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I want to share one joy before I step into my benediction. Our joy is that our choir is starting up again for the fall, which is wonderful, joyful, and everybody is welcome to join the choir. Everybody. It would be lovely if everybody was in the choir. But our first rehearsal for the year will be this coming Wednesday, September the 10th at 6:30 right here. So I know there are lots of choir members in the space. If you have questions about the choir, or you can reach out to our choir director, Jim Tong. But please, everyone is welcome. Please come and join the choir. In her novel, Always Coming Home, Ursula Le Guin imagines a people living in a future California, a future and a people that embraces a return to living with the land and its creatures. And she shares this poem of these people in the novel. Please bring strange things. Please come bringing new things. Let very old things come into your hands. Let what you do not know come into your eyes. Let desert sand harden your feet. Let the arch of your feet be the mountains. Let the paths of your fingertips be your maps. And the ways you go be the lines of your palms. Let there be deep snow in your inbreathing, and your outbreath be the shining of ice. May your mouth contain the shape of strange worlds. May you smell food cooking you have not eaten. May the spring of a foreign river be in your navel. May your soul be at home where there are no houses. Walk carefully, well-loved one. Walk mindfully, well-loved one. Walk fearlessly, well-loved one. Return with us. Return to us. Be always coming home. We will return to each other again and again and again, and for today, go in peace, dear ones, to love and serve the world.